call this to order for now, and we'll do a roll call.
Yes. Okay. Ralph Lewis.
Here.
Luke Cranston isn't here yet. Counselor Ort.
Here.
Brent Walker.
Here.
Counselor Quigley.
Here.
Counselor Patty.
Here.
Mayor Porter.
Here.
Tim Singh.
Here.
Counselor Hook.
Counselor Hook is here.
Okay. And it looks like Luke is walking in the door as we speak.
All right. So, the next item is the approval of the minutes from May 9, 2022. Do we have a motion? Or do we have issues, or? It's moved,
Second.
and it's seconded. So do we want to do this orally?
It's up. Well, we better do it because we've got Counselor Hook
Right.
up on the
Okay.
virtual. So I will run through my list again.
Okay, go ahead.
Sure. Counselor Hook.
Yes.
And we're voting on the motion.
Yeah, you're aware of that, right? Counselor Hook, we're voting on the minutes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Tim,
Yes.
Mayor Porter. Counselor Patty,
Yes.
Counselor Quigley,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Counselor Ort,
Yes.
Luke,
Yes.
and Ralph.
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
Okay. The next item is to continue the budget review, and I think we left off with, I don't know, do you ladies have anything prior to him?
Nope, we are ready to go right into
So, Mr.
planning and
Fleischman.
development.
Dazzle us.
This is the review is completed. Dan, your microphone.
White. Good evening, really for the benefit of Member Singh, who I don't think I've met. I'm Dan Fleischman, the Planning and Development Director. I believe everybody else knows me. The Planning and Development Department is responsible for the relatively unique requirements that the city must undertake under state law, which is our land use planning and regulation program. Until 2 weeks ago this morning, I was the entire Planning and Development Department. 2 weeks ago, we hired, after long delay and keeping the position vacant, we hired a code enforcement officer who works 20-hour a week position. Can we?
You ready?
Yeah, I am ready.
Let me get this to come alive here. There we go.
So the issues that the Planning and Development Department are working on a weekly, monthly basis are downtown revitalization. I am the liaison between the city and revitalized downtown Stayton, the downtown's Main Street group. I serve on their board in an ex officio, non-voting capacity, participate in their economic vitality committee. Development of the Wilco Road industrial area. Now, 2 years ago, the city completed the development of economic development strategies that laid out tasks that the city should be participating in to promote development in that area. We have in the order of 75 to 80 acres of vacant industrially zoned land in the city. That has been in the city now for decades, and it would be nice to see something happen out there. That's part of the economic development strategies. And also, the Planning Commission has been working on a rewrite of the city's residential zoning. sort of a whole new paradigm of how we regulate residential development in the city. Next, please. This just shows the level of development activity or land use applications that we've processed the past couple years. In 2020, there were 8 applications and 1 city-initiated activity. In 2021, we were up to 13 land use applications and 2 city-initiated files. And at this point, when I wrote this slide, we were at 7, but we're now at 8 applications that have come in year to date that require either a hearing before the Planning Commission, hearing before Planning Commission and City Council, or a handful of smaller projects or just a staff level review, but still require notice and formal proceedings. Financially, the bulk of the department's budget is for personnel services, again, 1.5 employees. The half was vacant for the past, the position moved from the police department to the planning and development department in July of 20 and was vacant from that time until 2 weeks ago. Mayor.
Dan, how long possibly to get this person up and running on code enforcement?
She is up and running.
Oh, right.
She's been sending out several letters a day. We've set her up with a sort of a routine of going around a quarter of the city a week and just checking things out. She will be handling land use, which includes signs, nuisance issues, which is primarily tall grass and other junky yard classification of things, abandoned vehicles on the street.
Wonderful.
And a few other miscellaneous things, but that's going to be the bulk of her work, is dealing with unmowed lawns, junky yards, and abandoned vehicles.
Okay.
Or vehicles stored on the street, as the code calls them. And then for there's $30,000 in the proposed budget for contract services that pays for city engineers for reviewing land use applications, and there's some in there to, again, further implement the economic development strategies.
So I think Councilor Quigley has a question.
I do, thank you. Dan, I'm glad that the code enforcement officer is in place. You mentioned she was going around town. Is she self-initiating, or is it still a complaint driven?
She is self-initiating.
That's good. That's
Yep.
great to hear.
Yep.
I think from my perspective, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the council, but that's long overdue. Our community is a reflection of who we are as a community, and the broken window theory, right? I really want to see, I really like the consideration of that position being evolved to a full-time position. Not necessarily today, but consideration for the future. So something that I'd like to throw out there for consideration.
Yep, that's something for the budget committee to consider and the council to implement, should you choose to. And that's it for my presentation. If anyone else has other questions, I'll do my best.
Real quick, Chair Lewis. As far as putting that in a formal motion, Councilor Quigley, do you have any interest in doing that at this point, or would you like to save that for later?
We could do it either way, whatever is appropriate. Is it appropriate to do it now, Dan?
I would think it would be, once we're done with the presentations and it's time for motions to take action on the budget.
We'll reserve it for then.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. We can look at it tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I think I'll just add to that. I think that it's something we can, if it's something you guys would like us to look at adding to this fiscal year budget, be surprised if we finish our review tonight, so that could be something that we can bring back tomorrow of what that would potentially look like. In the past, it was 2 part-time positions. So we can look at options if that's something, and then you don't have to worry about making a motion tonight. We can maybe come back with those
Please,
details.
thank you.
Okay.
So are we going to follow the book here? Because,
Yes.
okay,
It's my turn. I was making notes.
yes, okay.
So that way this evening, when I get home, I can make the budget adjustment changes so I can have something prepared for tomorrow, adding that into the general fund for the full FTE. So, where am I? Community center. Okay, so next is the community center. So since April of '21 through March of '22, we've done about 780 hours that the community center's been rented, and that's a combination of the seniors meals program that they prepare the meals here and send out to the seniors in our community, and as well as private and business rentals. And also, the community center is being used for meetings for city council, planning, and budget, and a combination of in-person and as well as still virtual from here. So that's what the activities has been happening with the community center. The budget at this time is just continuing maintaining maintenance needed for the community center, and along with keeping it clean for usage. We don't have any capital projects at this time. We want to finish the facilities assessment and decide what needs need to happen with the community center next. So that's all I have for the community center. Does anyone have any questions?
Chairman Lewis, I do.
Counselor Quigley?
Susanna, when's the last, or let me make sure I phrase this correct. When is the last time a rate review for rental of this facility was done?
What year was that? It was 19 something.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and actually something as we're getting ready to relook at the fee schedule, which comes before council generally June-ish every year. It's something we've been talking about. It needs adjustments. It has been a really long time, and we need to look at not only the rental fees, but the cleaning fees that we're charging, and making sure that what people that are renting the building are paying for cleaning covers our costs for cleaning. So
Okay.
it's definitely something that's going to be looked at.
Thank you. I think, to that note, I think it's be prudent for us to maybe look at all of contracts that are out there on city-owned property, see what that rates are, see what ones are expired, that are still being operated today, et cetera, et cetera. So we could
Yes.
maybe put that on the list coming forward. That'd be
Yes, yes.
great. Thank you.
Question. Mr. Cranston, what's the year, so we have, sorry, you told us how many hours it was used this year. What's that in relation to years past?
I actually don't have that information because we were closed and not renting it through COVID, so we just started it back up, so this is the way we are. But generally, we've had churches use it, we've had private parties in here, and then always we've had the Meals on Wheels in here, and they were still in here even through COVID, so they could get meals out to people. But I don't actually have that number, sorry.
Okay.
Chair Lewis. Susanna, can you
Counselor
tell me,
Ward?
thank you, can you tell me what page the revenues are on and how much revenue the community center brings in?
So the general fund is where it gets the revenue, and that's where the beginning for the breakdown, I think I have at the community center around 10 or 20. If I remember right, it's not very high. It's slowly picking up, and we want to do the rate change as well. Let me see what page is that. It's in the beginning.
And then I'm curious, besides
It's really small.
our website, what other advertising, do we do any advertising for our,
I don't
like,
believe
the
so.
community center, the part, like our rentals?
I think a lot of it is word of mouth with the community center. The parks also, I think yeah, go ahead. Lance's department oversees it. I just, since we're still on this subject, I pulled up the 2019-20 fiscal year budget. And just to give you what it was, the rental hours back then, it was 1,171 hours. So just to answer that question of a comparison.
Yeah, if you go to the Public Works website, and you may have went there, Counselor Ort, we have all our rentals on there. We rent out the community center through the Public Works site. We rent out our pavilion at Pioneer Park through the Public Works site, and we rent out the Jordan Bridge through the Public Works site. That is really where we advertise it.
Thank you. I don't know when an appropriate time to ask this question, so you can tell me, but, I mean, have we, like, talked about or considered, like, advertising? Like, actually having an advertising plan for our, like, the pool, and the fact that we do have pool parties, and that you can use this room, or?
I believe the pool piece is something that's underway and that they are working on getting advertising out, visiting schools, getting flyers out, trying to promote it. I don't think we've ever actually done that with the community center facility. It's really been word of mouth and getting people, and honestly, I think a lot of people, we get a lot of people from Salem, and they hear our rates are low, and so they're coming out.
Sure.
Now, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, our rates are not necessarily, haven't been looked at in a really long time. So we need to make sure we're covering our costs for the facility and the cleaning, and that we can take care of it. You've got stuff to add, or are you waiting?
It's loading.
Okay.
But I think it was only around
Could you tell me what page? I still can't find that revenue page.
So, I was trying to find, the revenue page doesn't have the detail. The revenue page is on 21, but it's grouped. The revenue page is on 21, but it's grouped. It's in the miscellaneous. It's all combined in there. I thought we had
Is
a
it in the
detailed.
detailed? Which page?
So your line item detail will have it. So I was just trying to just pull it up and see what we,
I've like flipped through this thing.
that's just. There it is. That's the alcohol fee, so.
What's on the other side?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the general fund page, if anyone else is looking for it.
We just found it too. So I have budgeted at $8,000 for this year. This next fiscal year. So the
but it
Meals on
costs
Wheels
us-
pays a flat rate.
Okay.
They just pay a flat rate, and it's like it's $500 a month. So it's all they're paying for usage of it. So they're really low. We did have Alyssa and I did meet with them and let them know not this fiscal budget, but the next one we're going to be talking to them about increasing it. We wanted to give them time to recover from COVID before we up their rates. And then, do you have what their rental rates are? Okay.
Oh, sorry, okay, so why are you looking for that?
And then
So-
we're going to be changing the fee schedule, of course, for the rental.
So how many, I missed what you said about how many hours we did last year?
1,100 and
That was in the 1920.
the 1920 fiscal year, we did a little over 1,000 hours. We're at 780 right now.
Okay.
And that's including our council meetings, our all the planning, that's all the meetings and stuff too, not just the rentals.
Gotcha. And how many available hours are there? Do we know that?
They're basically the weekends, the evenings, The only evenings it's not really available is on our Monday night meetings.
It's really open. It would be all day throughout the week and weekend. City meetings take priority.
Sure.
These Meals on Wheels, those things take priority. But we don't necessarily have limits on that, as long as, I think usually we have them shut down by midnight, 10 o'clock. So,
Okay. Thank you.
The revenue doesn't keep up with the maintenance of the building, if that's what you're looking at.
Well,
Yeah.
so it's 45,000. That's what you're budgeting it's gonna cost us next
Yes,
year to run it,
yes,
but you're anticipating only 8,000.
yes. And the community center, like, even prior, has not, the rental fees does not cover the cost of the building. And that's why we're going to be looking at, that's why we went looking at rates to compare.
Okay, so I'm not saying that we necessarily have to raise our rates per se, but if we could have, I don't know, if we've never looked at like advertising it and it's just word of mouth, then that could be something to get more usage out of it. Because it's here all the time.
Yes, but it's also an amenity that the taxpayer dollar should not be supporting. So the rental fees should be covering the cost to maintain the building. So that is definitely a gap that needs to be addressed. Did you want to add something, Lance?
I would definitely, I certainly agree that the taxpayers shouldn't be paying for it, but I'm just saying, if more people knew about, what?
Right, we could,
I mean,
with more
okay.
people coming in, we could make up that 45,000.
That's what I mean.
That would help,
I'm-
yes.
We just want to increase
Shorter amount of
utilization of the building.
Yes, I would like to figure out how we can do that. And I don't necessarily know if this is the right time to talk about that, but I don't know if the council meeting is or what, if we need to address like an advertising budget in general, or,
I think as a staff, it's something that we can take and ask. We've got Wendy in Lance's office, and ask her to maybe do some looking into what other communities do for their facilities. And
Okay.
we can definitely take that advice and run with it, see what we can come up with.
sure. Because this is an awesome space. I've been here for several different events, so, I mean, I think that it could be, we always say that Stayton is like a hidden gem, and this is one of them, so, I mean, I can see that we could utilize this more to make that higher.
Chair Lewis.
Oh.
I just wanted to support what Councilor Orr was saying, that I also think that we were missing out on an opportunity to advertise this facility and even our parks in general. And I would, as you guys are going back to talk about if we can increase, an half of an FTE for like ordinance stuff, I'd be curious to know if we can maybe put in some type of a budget, because it wouldn't be that much probably that we would need to even just start advertising and see what that does, for like a year. If possible, if we could look at something like that, to have come back to us as well to see if we can manage it. Because I would like for you guys to have the budget to do it instead of having to come back to the council and have it not go through the budget committee, because everything should go through the budget committee if it can. And if we're talking about it now, it might as well be presented to the budget committee as an option. So they're involved in it as well. That's my 2 cents on it.
Chairman Lewis.
Councilor Quigley.
I think the prudent thing to do would be to, and I agree with your sentiment about increasing utilization. I think before we start advertising anything, however, we need to have a rate review and determine what rates we're going to charge so we can incorporate that into the advertising. So if you want to combine that as a project, I think the council will be all for that.
Okay.
Real quick, Chair
Okay.
Lewis, as another individual counselor, I think that definitely needs to come before the outreach piece of it, but I am in full agreement with you. This is an unutilized space that is a gem to Stayton. So I look forward to hearing what staff comes forward with that, but definitely the rate increase first, and whatever that's going to look like.
Yeah, we can do that.
Brent?
Yes, how many hours total are available for renting the community center?
Lance is going to answer that.
To correct, I can't answer that. What I can say is we have a calendar that's on our website that shows you every day and every hour it's rented. You just have to go to the website, and anybody who calls in or anybody that sends in a reservation, it goes right onto that calendar. It's open for the public to see. If you go look at it, it's rented quite a bit. It really is. The issue with renting this facility is that people tend to want to rent it at the same time. We only have one building. We try to cordon it off north and south, so we pull the divider out. The north side will be rented and the south side will be rented at the same time. But again, most people want it either during the weekend day or the weekend night. During the week, not so much. We don't get very many calls for that. So the advertising might help with that. I'm not saying it won't, but most of the time, people want to rent it for the same time for the same types of things, either birthday parties, quinceañeras, retirement parties, or wakes and of sort, that kind of thing. So, and I can't tell you. I think it goes from 8 to 10 o'clock at night, every night of the week. But that calendar's there under facilities, under public works, and you can see anything and anytime, who's renting it, and for how long.
I'm just wondering if, before we investigate into advertising, how much space we got available, because it wouldn't make any sense to try to get more people if they're all going for the same time.
That's a good point. Thank you.
Ready? Okay, we're on court. Just trying to pull up the other detail. Okay. Is that all we have for the community center?
Looks like.
Okay. So next, we're going to go to the court. So with court, what we should estimate out around 90,000 to end this current fiscal year that we're in, and doing small increases as things begin to pick up, estimating a little over 112,900 for this current budget that we're looking at for revenue coming in. I'm projecting out past that, it is going to slowly continue to climb back up to what it was before pre-COVID. So that's where the revenue is. And the next slide. And this is for the budget. This is just maintaining the building and the judge and that combination, and with the full 0.8 FTE for the staff. There is no major projects at this point. This building was remodeled and we've been reviewing it, and it doesn't have any major needs at this point. So this is the budget for court. Any questions?
Suzanne, I have a question.
Okay.
I was looking at the proposed court and parking fines and assessments for this budget cycle, and it seems higher than last year, but not anywhere close to 1920.
Are you looking at revenue, or are you looking at which one?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the revenue
Okay.
for it.
Trying to follow you.
'Cause it
Okay.
I'm sorry, because and I don't know if this is one of those things that is supposed to cover itself or not, but at the proposed revenue, it doesn't pay for itself.
So before COVID, it did.
Yeah.
And so I'm anticipating that it will climb itself back up and sustain it before the court actually had more than expenditures. But we've had a lot of closures. We had not been able to have court because of COVID. We were closed for the time. So that's slowly picking back up. And I anticipate that to go back to pre-COVID, hopefully within the next 2 years. Or maybe it'll surprise us and do this year, but I'm always going to be conservative on revenue and higher on expenses so that I'm prepared for whatever could possibly happen. So,
And if, I'm sorry, can I? Have we talked about or considered, like, do we have to have a court in town? Are we big enough for our own court? Is it something that we can look into, like combining with other surrounding cities?
so we are big enough to have our own, and for our community, it's more effective for us to have a local court. We do partner out, so we don't do DUIs and things like that. That is done in Marion County, and then they share with us. So we stick with the traffic and ordinance issues, things like that.
Okay.
Chair Lewis. Thanks. Hey, I was just looking at the municipal court ordinance violations year over year, and I just kind of had a question that I thought of myself. As far as the last year's total of 5, and then previous to that, the 24 violations. And so I'm looking at the actual budget on page 40 under municipal
I'm with
court.
you now. Yep, I'm here.
And the performance measures. Sorry, I should have started with that. I apologize.
That's okay.
So I'm just kind of curious, when was the 2 code enforcement positions last filled? Like the 2 FTEs?
Spring of '20 was the last time they were filled, so that kind of tells the story here, right, of it.
Okay, but the 2 were filled when we only had 24 ordinance violations? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Of ones that went, I guess it would be ones that went through the court, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not counting the ones that where a letter was addressed, they paid the fine and just took care of it. This is the ones that had to go all the way to the
Right.
judge.
So between the adjudicated ones and the non-adjudicated ones, do you happen to have that total, or can we look at that tomorrow maybe even?
The police had the ordinance on it.
Yes, it's
Thank
in the
you.
police budget because it originally was in police and then has moved over. So they've got that in there.
Trying to find
Page
it.
34.
So it's in page 34 in the police part of the budget.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm good, thank you.
Okay, great. Anything else for, you have a question?
So, going back to going from a half-time to a full-time on the code enforcement, is 220 the capacity? I mean, they did 220 letters, basically. Is that, without saying were they efficient, is there room for them to say if they did work 40 hours a week, would this number go up because there would be more opportunity for them to get more, or they're kind of, is this a tapped out market, I guess?
I don't know how the police department tallied the workload and what the numbers on that page actually represent. It could mean that there was a phone call about a complaint about their next door neighbor, and that got tallied. And they went out and drove by. I mean, in the time that I was doing the code enforcement work, I would get those phone calls, and I would go out and drive by and go, what are they complaining about? So I don't know, and I wouldn't keep track of that as having done anything. It may be that the police department did keep track of that as doing something. So my experience in doing code enforcement work is that 90% of the people who are contacted, sometimes by letter, sometimes by phone call, sometimes by email, sometimes by knocking on the door, take care of the issue without the need for any additional follow-up. Of the remaining 10%, there's either a citation or if it's a nuisance code type thing, there's a certified letter that goes out that is a notice of violation and order of abatement. And 90% of those get addressed within the 10 days that they're given under the code to take care of it. So it really leaves only a handful for which either a citation is issued or the city does abatement action. Quite frankly, the time that I've been doing it, I couldn't tell you how many cases without going back into the files. I didn't keep those records like the police department apparently has. The new code enforcement officer every case is getting entered into a spreadsheet, and we'll be able to tell you how many there are, how many are this type of case, how many are that type of case. So she's setting that system up to keep track of that. The capacity to handle how many cases can be handled by somebody, either half-time or part-time, I don't know. I can tell you she's been here for 2 weeks at a half day, so 5 working days, she's probably sent out 20 letters already.
Chair Lewis, if I may.
Councilor Patty.
Thank you so much. I had a follow-up, Dan. Is there any kind of specific policy in place for your section that governs the data tracking? Because I hear a lot of different sort of hodgepodge systems that were in place. It kind of seems like at this point, we need some standardized way of tracking these numbers. And then in addition to that, I would also want to know when somebody's calling, code enforcement officers going out and then observing that there's no violation. I think that should also be tracked so we know how often that's occurring. So just hearing all this, I'm thinking individually as a city councilor, there needs to be a policy in place for this data tracking.
And that is what we have set up with her starting to work. I mean, she's got a spreadsheet, and that information is being entered into it.
Okay, and then so the spreadsheet, what fields is that capturing exactly? Is it?
That's capturing name, date, location, type of violation, date that she's checking into it next, and various steps of resolution.
What about if a citation has been issued?
That will be in there also.
Okay, that's what I'm really getting at.
Right.
So thank you. That would be helpful.
And again, as you can see from the comparing the police department's report about code enforcement activity and the court's report about ordinance violation citations, they're relatively few and far between that a citation gets issued. Because once contacted, again, almost everybody takes care of it. And we've used the citation to address issues that we can't easily address ourselves. The code authorizes the city to go in and do abatement. So if it's a matter of you haven't mowed your lawn, the city will hire a lawn mowing contractor, get the work done, and you get the bill. If it's a matter of there's 4 dump trucks full of trash in the backyard, we're not going to go in and deem that and haul that off for you. We will issue a citation and have the judge order you to clean up, and then you deal with the court.
I tend to agree with Councilor Patty that needs to be codified in some way. God forbid you should leave or the current code enforcement people who made this up. I think it needs to be more solid so that it's from one administration to the next, so to speak.
Yeah. And
That's
it-
always there, and that's always being done. So when this meeting happens and somebody says, well, golly, how many did you have? And you'll be able to go, that's how many? I mean, it's like,
Right,
it'll be
yes,
just right
and
there.
that system is now in place.
Actually, it'll be in this book.
Right, we,
Okay.
Another question. You said something about that someone calls in, you drive past, and you don't see what they're complaining about. We have a false alarm billing for alarms going off from the police department. If we get frequent flyer whiners, is there a code against that?
no, there is no code against that, and most of those is, they come in as a phone call to City Hall, and I get an email, or now the code officer will get an email saying that a complaint was received about 123 Main Street, and I go by, that the lawn is out of control, and I go by and I go, well, maybe it got mowed yesterday, but it doesn't,
So does anybody actually talk to the complainer? I
in,
mean, actually goes to,
in most of those cases, I don't know who the complainer is because whoever calls doesn't get that, whoever takes the phone call at City Hall doesn't get that information to me.
Or
And
they
many
just don't
times
give it to
people
us.
don't want to identify themselves
Exactly.
because they're afraid that we'll label them as the snitch.
okay.
Chair Lewis, I have a question for Suzanne.
Go ahead, Counselor Orr.
Okay, I think I know the answer, but, so I was looking at the proposed FTEs for the court, and this year and last year, they're higher, but we're doing less work. And it's, based on,
The budget has been the 0.8. They've been doing 0.5 because they've been helping fill in where admin has been short in finance, like I said in the slides earlier tonight. And it's still budgeted at 0.8, and we would like to do 0.8 because we're anticipating it to grow. And even without enough court dates, there's still a lot of work involved for contacting people and filing and registering and submitting unpaid fines to Oregon Department of Revenue and collections and staying on top of that as well. So there is work that's happening on a consistent basis, even if there's not a court that day.
okay, I'm sorry, can you go back? So you said that the 0.3 from the 1920 budget, it was supposed to be 0.8, but it's 0.5? In 1920?
Oh, it's 0.6, excuse me, it's 0.6.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the clerk. So it was 0.6, but you want it to be 0.9, but before they were doing financing and they were doing
So,
this, and there was.
okay, let's just start over again. So for what you're looking at page 41, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, it's budgeted at 0.6. This person does finance and court. This person does our AR as accounting specialist and as court as well, and then fills in wherever else finance needs. All of my team is cross-trained so that everyone can help everyone. So this position is 0.6. It really needs to be 0.8 in order to keep up with the workload from now that we've got it all running the way it is running. But this person hasn't been doing the full 0.6 because finance needed their help. So it's budgeted at 0.8 because that's what it really needs to do all the pieces it needs. And as we're anticipating it to continue to grow.
Chair Lewis, I have a question. This is Counselor Hook.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Susanna, I'm trying to understand I think it would be helpful if we understood the context of that 0.8. Is that just like, are you going to have to hire someone new to bring them on to like bring up that point, from that 0.6 to 0.8? Or is this all just one person and their work is kind of like shifting more focused over to the court at this point?
Correct. It's an employee that we already have, and it's just shifting their workload between finance and court.
Okay, perfect. That makes more sense to me. 'Cause, like, I don't want to be cutting a full-time employee's hours that has been with us. Like, I think that helps me with the context of it. So I hope that helps others.
So will the finance department be losing the 0.3 to up that from 0.5 to 0.8, or are they hiring another person?
No, we're not hiring anymore. The positions that are in finance to hire will fill that 0.3 with the ones that we have in the budget for the 7.8 total that finance will have. That includes the 0.4 or whatever the difference is from 0.8, the 0.2 from the person that's in the court and finance, and then the other positions.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to belabor the point here. So you're having more time at the court, but they're doing significantly less work than they were doing in 2019 and 20.
Let me see if I can tackle this. So the position used to be the court clerk and a records clerk. Few years ago, that transitioned to pulled it out of the police department, and it was finance and court. That employee left. And so then, and I think on top of that, we also then went into the pandemic. And so then we had a current employee who had been cross-trained in court, who she started filling in with the court and getting those required things done, as well as still doing her duties at City Hall. So now that we've transitioned her to learning the job, really spending time learning what it is that the position takes, that's why it moved to a 0.8. Because what we've found is that with all the steps that are required, that's where her time really is being focused, that 0.8 of the time. And then the rest of the time, she's doing accounts receivable for the finance department. Does that help at all? So the other 0.2 of that is in the finance. When we get to administration, that's in that table. So it's one person.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good. Okay. Any other questions on court? Okay. The governing body is the next portion on the budget, and for the governing body, we continue each year to year with training funds available for council members to do their training and the mayor. We've also added this year is time to do new goal setting for the council, so we've added that to the budget as well. We've not put in the community improvement grant at this year because we're waiting to see how the economy changes, and so that is held out for not this year, but for future years. And so there's your budget showing this, adding the 10,000 at this point for the goal and leaving the training the same. Any questions on the governing body? Okay. Administration. So for the administration portion of the budget, there's the budget first, and you can see the changes are in there. And on the next slide, for our question from last night, I thought I'd give a little bigger detail. So in the personnel, we have the new city manager, so that's going to be a change, as well as adding the 0.4 from the prior year to bring us to the 7.8, because we were at 6. Did I do my numbers wrong? It was 6 point? Yeah, it was 6.8, and with this year, it's going to be 7.2. And so there's that change. And then the other things that increase the budget for the numbers is a combination of the building maintenance has gone up. We have that wall repair that needs to be done where the wall is leaking. The computer software, now that we've gone to .gov, that licensing fees are more because there's rules involved with where government emails and all that stuff should be stored. And of course, that's tied to the Microsoft packages and Adobe packages and that stuff. So that's a combination. That's gone up. We've also increased firewalls and that kind of stuff. We've had to keep up with the change in what happens in IT, because the last thing we want is our data to be taken for ransom. So that's an increase. Our fiscal software for Cassell did an increase this year. Our contract services for IT is in there as well. So, and then, of course, we have additional staff, so we've increased the training staff. And so that's kind of the combination of those. Those are the key things that we increased in materials and services. And of course, capital outlay, there was no capital outlay last year. Well, there was one, but the capital outlay this year is the construction for the city hall and then doing the generator for emergency management. So those are the main changes that we have for why there's an increase in the cost of administration. Any questions on that part?
Chair Lewis.
Councilor Patty, go
Thank you
ahead.
so much. Hey, Susanna, yesterday you had mentioned something to me about transitioning over to the .gov and that there was some cost savings there. I just wanted to highlight that. And
Oh, yes.
That's a definite accomplishment on your part, and I want to thank you on behalf of the city of Stayton and the taxpayers here for doing that and saving us some cash. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. The next thing inside of the administration we bring before you, the chamber had presented at the beginning of the budget committees for the public hearing. So what we've done is we've put together for you since 2015 the occupancy tax that we have collected each year. So from 2015 through May 5th of 2022, we've collected a total of a little over $15,000. It is in basically miscellaneous in our budget. It's too small of a number, but we do keep a spreadsheet and we do track that. And what happens every quarter is that one of our finance team sends out letters to the Airbnbs that we have, asking them to submit their revenue and their taxes so that we can generate them an invoice for their portions they pay. So that is the history of our occupancy tax since 2015. And the chamber is asking for $2,500 a year of a membership, and they're asking for $15,000 as an addition to support the visitor center with that. Go ahead.
And last night, we put at each of your seats, our office specialist, Tammy, had began work because the chamber had come to the council to make a similar proposal. And so she had started contacting other cities to find out what their partnerships look like with their Chamber of Commerce. So we had hoped to have time to contact more cities, but being we needed to wrap it up and have that for you guys for these meetings, we did get cut a little short, but I just wanted to point out that those are in there. And then, and this is a breakdown of that handout that you were given. So most of the time, pretty much all of the time, any additional support for a visitor center is linked to an agreement which lists specific deliverables. And these are the ones that we were able to get in contact with. We sorted them by population. you'll see I think one thing that is definitely consistent is every Chamber of Commerce has different fee structures. That's something that they can set on their own. And another item that we thought was was important to point out was whether or not they had a city board member or liaison. And as you can see, most of the ones that we were able to reach out to did. And so with that, we're happy to answer questions. I didn't receive an email that had what the chamber's proposal was that last Monday evening, so I don't have that to give to you. So apologize for that, but we didn't receive it.
I got a question, Chairman Lewis.
Counselor Quigley?
Alyssa, thanks for putting this together. I think this is something that I talked about a month ago or so. My first question is, when the chamber presented to the council a month ago, Councilor Patty asked them for these same deliverables. They were also asked about council representation or city representation on the board. They quickly quashed that and said, we can't do that. Wouldn't be, I don't want to put any words in their mouth, but transparent, there was transparency issues there. So we gave them a month to provide us with documentation, knowing that the budget committee was coming up. You saw the representation the original night of the budget committee. And since that time, we haven't received anything from them, have we?
That's correct.
So when we get to this particular item, I'm going to make a motion that we deny the request for the support of the visitor center and maybe even the chamber membership level.
Chairman Lewis?
Counselor Ord?
Susanna, how do we know how many Airbnbs are in town or what, and not just specifically, but there's other sites as well. So how do we know what tourism we have in town to collect that tax?
So what we did, especially just curiosity here recently, is we literally go on Airbnb and search Stayton, Oregon. And I actually went to a couple other, there's vacation rental by owners, VRBO, and look, there was nothing on there. But on Airbnb, we did locate 3 local Airbnbs. And and that's one thing we're talking about. And I can't speak too much to the process but I know that our staff sends out quarterly letters to the known Airbnbs and other bed and breakfasts, ones who've let us know, and send out the letter requesting that they submit their quarterly payments for the transient occupancy tax.
Forgive me, I don't know a lot about the tax, but when it was put into place, was there direction or language on how we would figure out who those people were?
Not that I know of in the short time that I've been here, but pulling this up, and because it's been on the honor system. She sends out a blank form requesting their quarterly revenues and the tax they collected, and then they get they fill that out, and then we create the invoice based on an honor system. After we sat down and we pulled all this information up, and then she went searching on the Airbnbs to see if just what was there. We just decided that we better put something more in place than just the honor system, that we actually use the website and go look it up the same way we do looking for landlords. So we're just going to be adding that going forward, that we search those websites. On here, you can see that some of these ones down at the bottom, the occupancy tax first, those are all websites that people have booked through and sent us our portions on their own. So we're just going to have to make that part of our process going forward.
And then a follow-up, if I may.
Yes, please.
If you're just starting out and say that I want to run an Airbnb and I'm just starting out, how am I supposed to know that I'm supposed to pay the tax?
Well,
Go ahead.
It's,
I'm ju- it's an
well,
honest question.
it's going to be a reality if you're going to run a business, so you're going to understand that. And all hotels pay that's what your bed tax is. So if any owner who wants to start a business would have done that research and understand the rules, you're shaking your head no,
You can amaze how many people start a business and don't know what they're doing.
don't know what they're doing. Fair enough. So that's why we're going to add the piece that we're going to go searching for the ones that are putting them online.
So where do we find this?
guess.
Where do I find this information?
You can,
Which,
Department of Revenue, it's on the Department of Revenue site. And I don't want to give you a wrong number, but I think it's 7%.
ours is not. Okay.
I would love to see a tab or something on our website maybe that would have information for people who are, if we don't already have it, Dan's coming up here.
Yes, I think that would be helpful. Dan looks like he's got some info.
There is a page in the planning and development purview that is, what do I do if I want to start a business? Now, as Luke said, a lot of people start a business without checking into what it is they're supposed to do. I would say in the past 3 or 5 years, I've gotten phone calls from people actually asking, gee, does the zoning allow me to do this? And after I finish answering that question, I do mention, oh, and there is the city's transient occupancy tax. Make sure you contact the finance department
Okay,
to set that up.
that is helpful.
Where it goes from there, who knows?
I would imagine that once if they do reach out, what Elizabeth is doing, for instance, when I found this Airbnb that wasn't in our records the other day, I sent her an email and I said, we need to reach out to these people and let them know. And so I was talking to her this morning and she's like, here's the letter. I've got the stuff ready to go. It's going to be in the mail today. And so, it's really going to be quarterly going on there and just seeing if there's anything new. There's just not a lot out. I was surprised, but not surprised, that there weren't more. I don't know that. I know that there's some where people are coming in to, like doctors are staying locally for the hospital, right? Yeah, those kinds of things. But other than that, it's just not a lot of them locally.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question more about the accounting method as opposed to the numbers. We don't post the pot taxes, so that way we don't discuss how much other people are making. And yet, I can see a couple of people and businesses where we're kind of going over where if you know the numbers, you can find out how much money they're making.
No, that's
With-
the tax they paid us.
Yeah,
That's not what they're making.
this is just the tax that they paid into the city.
I understand that.
And
but
this
I
is
know they
public
make-
record. With the marijuana, we have to sign a secrecy clause
Okay.
where we're not allowed to divulge that
That's what I was
information.
wondering, because I
Yeah.
was just thinking if my name were up there, I'd be a little frustrated if it were being shared.
Yeah, it's different rules and it's public record.
All right, just wanted to make sure I was.
No, good question.
Mr. Chairman,
No, that's a good question.
Mr. Bear?
since we've wandered off the original proposal there with occupancy taxes, the marijuana thing, I understood from the get-go that we couldn't divulge what they paid as long as there was one store. Now there's 3.
So
Does the state-
the
did the
state
state
has
change
not,
that?
the state has not updated that with us yet. Honestly, I just looked at that recently because I know we have more than one, but we still have that same letter in effect. So I just not have had the bandwidth to follow up and say, is it time for us to make a change? Because I know we have more than one. It's just me needing to follow up and say, can we release this?
We should, there's some significant numbers there.
Yes, there's a decent amount of revenue coming in from there.
Were you here when we got that first report on how much money that was?
No, I've only been here 3 years, Mr. Mayor. So, but it has changed since I've been here. Because I think when I first started, we were still one store, I think, right?
Lots of money. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Bandwidth. So you want to go back to the other slide? Do we have more to address on this topic?
The only thing I'll ask you is where is the appropriation for the $2,500 membership fee?
It's in I did add that to the budget. It's in administration under the memberships.
Okay, so it's showing 14,000, right? Or, yeah, for 2023? 22,
Trying to
23.
find the line item. Yeah,
Is that it? Okay, thanks.
yes. It's just in your line item, you'll see it there really clear. I just can't find the page. I'm trying. So there you go. Yeah, so it's in that 14,000.
110?
Question. Regarding the 2,500 membership fees, what do we get for that?
I'll let her answer that question.
I did not bring the flyer with me. I can tell you it classifies us as a business that has affiliate locations. It includes 2 tickets to the Chamber Awards, advertising of jobs, and, instead of me trying to guess, what I can do is email that out to everybody tomorrow morning. That way you have it before we wrap up tomorrow night, and you can, as a matter of fact, I could probably just send out the packet of information that we provided to the council at their meeting in April.
Counselor Quigley.
Alyssa, would that include the letter from the chamber that the council received?
Yes, I can do that. Yeah, I'll just pull the memo and all the attachments that were
Thanks.
included, and I'll email that out to you guys tomorrow morning. Okay?
I also want to note when the line item where you see the difference with chamber in the prior years, we were giving them the 800, so that's just an increase from the 8 to the 25. Okay. I think we're ready. So the final piece of the general fund is the non-operational. This is the section of the budget that doesn't really tie to anything specific. That's why it's called non-operational, but it's still in the general fund. So this is where we have placed the expenditures for the HOPE grant for the $500,000 that Dan was able to get awarded to do the remodel of the 2 places downtown. And if you want questions, Dan can answer those, but it's remodeling the 2 apartments. How many is the total apartments, Dan? 7. It's 7 apartments, but 2 buildings. And then this is also where we have, at the moment, this is the holding place of expending the remaining balance of the ARPA money that we will be receiving and that we haven't spent in this fiscal year until we delegate where we want to spend it. And then also we were awarded $100,000 for public safety. That expense is here as well for the cameras and the security system through the city. And this is also where we house the transfers. So this year, the pool will receive $90,000 from the general fund. The park will receive $190,000, and the library will receive $70,000. That is a decrease in parks and library for some prior years. Any questions on that? Oh, shoot, I forgot the streets in there. Any questions on the non-operational? Okay.
Chair Lewis,
Yes, ma'am.
Susanna,
ahead.
I know what you're saying, but just for a clarification, so the grants, the city gets the grants and then they give them to those organizations. Is that what that is? Or the people who receive them, that HOPE grant? Dan is shaking his head yes, right?
The work is done, but the bills are going to come to the city. and that's why we're paying for it.
Yes.
But Dan and I are on the committee that we work with the HUD people, and Dan is navigating all the work that gets done and all those things, but those bills have to be approved by HUD first, and then before the next steps are done, and then it comes to us.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. So streetlights, added some to this. So we budgeted 110,000 this year. And in the past, there has been communication on recovering some of this cost. So every year we just leave it there because it's never moved forward. But that has been a option in the past to recover these fees. So what I added to the slide after speaking to some of the council members last night was this is what it's actually paying for. It's the street lights throughout the city, wherever there's a street light. It's a combination of those. It also includes the library's digital sign. It includes the pedestrian blinky light that's on First and Cedar, and then 3 additional traffic signals. And one of those signals was the one on Shaft and Cascade. That's just being added, that the county reached out to us and said, this was supposed to be yours and you've missed it. So we just added that back in. So that's the streetlights. Question? Go ahead.
Counselor Quigley looked confused on that one. So recently, Marion County Public Works, one of their engineers, reached out to us to say, hey, we were looking at our power bill and we noticed that we've been paying for one of your traffic signals and we'd like you to take that over. And we're paying all of our other ones. We looked into it. It's, I think, $20 a month. And so we're like, oh, well, good catch. And we got a hold of Pacific Power and had it transferred over. So don't know how or why, or, I mean, obviously it's been for a few years, that light's been in place for a while. But they were reviewing agreements and their invoices. And so that's why that one is new-ish.
But those are county roads.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
understand why we have
and
to pay anything.
Where's our left arrow at First and Washington?
I'm with you there. I use that daily.
No, I want to know where it is.
It was there, wasn't it, for a while, and then it went away. Yes. So,
So, I mean, Chair Lewis has a good point. Is that like an agreement that we have with the county that we pay for their electricity for their roads?
for the traffic lights, yes. They do, so they have an agreement with ODOT, and ODOT does all the maintenance on all the lights. We literally are only responsible for the electricity. So any maintenance, upkeep, light burns out, that's all, they have a contract with ODOT to take care of those.
So that's why it'd be to our advantage to get the roundabout going, because we don't have to have any lights.
That's true.
I know there's a lot of difference between $20 and what it's really going to cost.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
could I ask this group, is there any interest in reinstating a streetlight fee? 40 years ago, when we did it, it was incredibly unpopular, but times change. Ralph and I remember $2 a month on your utility bill for streetlights. Awful lot of silence. I guess that one's
Yeah.
going nowhere.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if you would, I believe that's probably a better conversation for council.
I'm
At some
sorry.
point.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, Mr. Mayor, that's probably a better discussion for council at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Get them thinking about it.
Okay, and then the balance of the general fund, we have our contingency at 1.2 million, and our unapportioned portion is stayed the same at the 765. Actually, it was 850, I just rounded it to an even 9. it's easier working in round numbers. That higher contingency is, like I said earlier, based on the lower revenue, the lower expenditures throughout that we've done, but then revenues coming in a little bit better than we anticipated. So that is where the general fund sits. And the library is next.
All right. The Stayton Public Library fulfills a vital role in our community by keeping people connected. So the library provides information and entertainment through our physical and our electronic resources. We build relationships and advocate for lifelong learning. So let's talk about highlights. This year, we successfully continue to imagine and implement new ways as a staff to provide service to the community. We reimagined story time to be able to provide it consistently. Despite changing COVID-19 health and safety measures and requirements, we started that last fall, and we became one of the first libraries in the region to offer in-person story time starting last fall. And you're just starting to see libraries doing that now. So we're very much ahead of the curve there. We're providing between 150 and 200 take and make kits for kids, teens, and adults every month, providing multi-generational activities for families. And we've increased our Spanish language collection and translated libraries' forums and marketing information into Spanish using grant funds both from ARPA and from a state library grant. Here you go. This year, we provided both a summer and a winter reading program, providing 2 different options for community members to engage in learning and reading in different manners. We circulated mobile hotspots in partnership with Chemeketa Community College and also with Chemeketa Cooperative Regional Library Service, CCRLS. And we've continued our participation in CCRLS, which enhances our ability to meet the community needs. You can go. For changes, our storytime format that's inspired by a forest school model in which families walk through Community Center Park, rain or shine, exploring early literacy along the way is a big change for this year. And we'll continue in that model for the rest of this series, taking advantage of health benefits for both parents and children and movement and experience outside for everyone. So you can often see them Tuesday morning. Our courier guy who drops off our books coming from the cooperative, it gets a good kick out of them. He won't go, though. We've also built a STEAM-based library things collection this year, expanding the boundaries of traditionally defined library materials by making things like magnetiles, snap circuits, a sewing machine, and like a Botley robot available for checkout. And then we've shifted the focus of our outreach program to increasing access to books to kids at home by becoming a Dolly Parton Imagination Library affiliate. So this program sends a free book to children ages 0 to 5 living in Stayton, Sublimity, Gates, Mahama, Detroit, and Idana. It's made possible through our partnership with the Stayton Library Foundation. Library funding, we are including an estimated $278,700 from levy taxes, $156,900 from CCRLS reimbursement, and $70,000 in a proposed transfer from the general fund. Our reimbursement from CCRLS is about $50,000 higher than we've ever had it. It is primarily based, it's a formula-based reimbursement on their tax number that's based 50% on our assessed value that we bring to the cooperative and 50% on our service to patrons who aren't ours. So CCRLS calls those patrons non-residents. They're either residents of other cities where there is no library or residents of cities who have a library that are coming to Stayton. So last year when we talked about how we were outperforming libraries much bigger than us, this is what happened when we did that. So in a typical year, Stayton serves about 11% of non-residents served within the whole cooperative, served within Polk, Yamhill, and Marion County. Last year, our library served 30% of the non-residents served within the cooperative, which is an incredible testament to our library staff. And especially if you think of the year that we had where we were also dealing with cuts in funding and layoffs. So they should be really proud of that. That's an incredible amount of service, and it shows the care and the dedication they have to serving the public, even when it's hard. So, and with that, I have any questions?
Chairman Lewis.
Counselor Quigley.
Jenna, congratulations. It's a reflection of a great director, so appreciate that. Very well articulated and great job to the team.
I think it's maybe a team effort, right? So,
Chair Lewis,
Counselor Patty.
thank you so much. If you may humor me one moment, has this Botley coding robot been checked out yet?
oh yeah, like
Okay.
the library staff almost had to replace its batteries before we checked it out to children because
Staff use.
it's important to have quality control. I also received its construction set for my birthday from the library staff so that he has more toys to play with. So if you want to use it, the construction set is in my office. I've not decided if I'm going to share it, my birthday present, with the citizens of
Okay.
Stayton.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd ask. I just want to go ahead and compliment you too, just like what he said here. I mean, this is definitely a reflection on you and your staff, but also on you as the leader, all right? So I just want to say thank you for weathering the storm of the pandemic and making this happen and rising above. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Granston.
The mobile hotspots, those are Wi-Fi hotspots, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're T-Mobile hotspots.
Okay, just wanted to.
Yep. All right, thank you.
All right, now it's the pool's turn. I wish the pool was glowing as well as the library, but I have faith it'll get there. So a couple things. We opened in October of '21. Membership is moving very slow, a little slower than we anticipated, but we're hoping with time that it'll continue to move forward. We've done a lot of outreach. We've done a lot of work with the schools. So what we have seen pick up, which has been really nice, is we've increased the schools coming to the pool. We've got full 3 high school swim teams, or 2 high school swim teams, as well as the local Mannery team coming. We've also, the National Guard is now back using our pool for their trainings. We've also, with our outreach, schools have booked the pool for their year-end parties. One school is using it for one of their PE classes. So we've been able to pick those things up while we're still waiting for members to begin to come back and when they feel safe. So that's been really a nice help to see. We are seeing rentals as well. So that is nice. We do plan to do a work session sometime in the summer of '22 to talk about the longevity of the pool. So you'll know that. I also want you to notice in your book on 54, just as you talked a few minutes ago about the matrix of what generated the numbers, where the pool has been rebooted. And so I have removed the old history because I spent a lot of time in the old software system that we no longer use. And it was quite difficult to figure out where those numbers and how they decided they worked. So I changed it to this for this fiscal year going forward, because the bottom line really is how many residents and non-residents that we're seeing, as well as just not memberships been coming in. So this is starting fresh with what we anticipate this fiscal year to be. And I've built that in our new software that we're using to be able to track that easier so that these numbers are going to be hopefully consistent going forward. So I just want to make note of that change for you so you see that. I also, on all of your tables, thank you to Luke and Ralph and Ben, who all caught that this was out of sequence. Everything was off a line in the materials and services. Your grand totals haven't changed for what you're still looking to approve, but I did correct the line items so that we're not spending $54,000 on the copier. We're actually spending our 53, we're actually spending it on building maintenance where it really belongs, and uniforms are now more reasonable instead of the membership thing. So all that's now back in the correct alignment. I apologize for that. We're still unfortunately building this budget on layers of Excel sheets. I've just finished learning the Advantage part of our Cassell software. So next year, I'm hoping it's going to be easier because it's going to be coming out of the system instead of a lot of data manual entry. So I apologize for the errors. So just so you guys have that. And then here's a look at the budget for the revenue coming in. We do have the 50% of the recreation levy for that for revenue for property taxes. Oh, okay. I lost my place where I was looking for a second. I was like, $602. That's the year the pool was closed for why there's only 602 for members. So you can see that we budgeted 190, but we're really going to come in around 60,000 because our membership is not picking up as quickly. And that charge for service is all of the rentals and everything combined. So I upped it a little bit more, but I didn't want to get too excited, but I'm hoping that it'll come there. And of course, we'll be adjusting rates as well as part of that as well. So we're kind of just rebuilding this pool. We have 3 FTEs scheduled. We have room to add more people. We continue to add. We're getting ready to start the swimming lessons here shortly. We're getting the new ones trained to get that going. I know that's really important. We're also going to be wanting to bring with the rates private lessons so that way people can just be one-on-one and they can be doing lessons all along and we don't have to wait for the pool and a big chunk of space. So we're going to be making some of those changes when we bring the rates to council in June so we can get some more flexibility to meet the needs of the community. It's been a nice adventure. It's been some obstacles, of course, putting this back together. We've added the volleyball, we've added the basketball, we've added some pool toys. We've been able to keep the slide open on the Saturdays and the parties that have rented the pool have wanted the slide. We're seeing more kids come, which is nice, but it's just going to take time for us to continue to stay open and keep meeting more people, getting that out there. We're now looking at, maybe we can be at the Summer Fest and then talk about the pool. We're trying to get creative ways to get our word out that we're here and we're open. We're looking at options of adding concession stands possibly. That little grass section that's on one of the doors that go out once we get the door repaired on this fiscal budget, to being to have it for the people who rent the pool, could have a little picnic area as well. And so that we're trying to think of some more ways to continue to bring some variety to the pool. So, and we'll be going over a lot of that too in the work session when we talk about the longevity of the pool. So that's the pool. Any questions?
Chair Lewis.
Counselor Ord.
I just thought of it. So this is a question for the library and for the pool. So both of them have like a Friends of the Library and the Friends of the Pool. Where does that, what, is that under contributions and grants or miscellaneous?
Okay, so for the pool, yes, the $30,000 that we received in 1920 came from the Friends of the Pool. Okay, and that was actually the fire alarm system that was done. And then in the 110 that we just received in 2021, that went toward helping pay for the roof. So how that works for the pool is as their revenues increase to where they've reached a spot where they're able to give, and under the foundation rules, there's some really strict rules about how you went in and how much money you can give. They contact us and say, okay, I have this much money to give to you. What projects do you need? I mean, they're also the ones that bought our chairlift as well in the past. So that's just a fluid relationship that they contact us and move forward with that.
So is that the foundation or Friends of the Pool? That's separate though, right?
So which is the one that, okay, then I'm getting it mixed up.
So the endowment is the one that gave us the
For the roof.
big chunk of money.
Yeah, for the
right?
roof,
Okay.
that one, yeah. And the Friends of the Pool did do the chairlift and some of the equipment. I'm not sure what we still have or not, but like the kickboards, those kinds of smaller donations is what Friends of the Pool has done.
Gotcha.
Friends of the Pool's a donation, so that's not, the other one is the actual found.
The community, the endowment is the one where the woman that had passed away had left money to the city specifically for the pool, and so it's run by a board.
Jordan, you want me to answer for the library? So the library has two supporting groups. We're kind of like that. So the Library Foundation is the one that is funding is helping fund our outreach position, which we changed, which I talked about when we changed. So you can see in our budget the decrease in their pledge for our position because it's our position. So they're giving a salary support number instead of paying for a whole position because I took a half-time position down. And because we're needing more of their funds to pay for Dolly Parton, and they pay that separately. So we needed to get the staff support number down, which means, which changes kind of some long-term planning for the library, which was to move our children's librarian from a 0.8 to a 1. And so they're going to give that salary support number. She's going to do some of those duties that still need a human, right? That still need that interaction piece, the outreach piece, but we're not going to have a half-time person doing it. So you see our foundation stuff in there in the outreach, that there's an outreach reimbursement line, I think, and it went from 27,000 to 18. So they're giving us 18 to support that position. And then they're giving us an additional 5,000 from the endowment that they have.
Okay.
The Friends of the Library, like the Friends of the Pool, is on a smaller scale that we just pay for smaller things, and it doesn't make them any less important. So they primarily fund a lot of our summer reading program, but it's funded separately through them, and the money does not come into the city. It's done separately through their stuff, and it's just it's on a much smaller scale, so it doesn't need to go through. It doesn't need to go through this. It's not quite as big as
Gotcha. Okay.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Chair Lewis,
Councilor Patty.
before we move on from the pool, a quick point of clarification. So real quick, I'm looking at Fund 65, the line items, specifically, it looks like about 5 down, electricity and natural gas. I'm just curious, is the actual water expense encapsulated anywhere in the line items on Fund 65 for the pool?
No,
So is it just?
I don't have,
Nope.
the city doesn't charge the pool water. I only have the electricity and the gas for the pool. That's a good question, though.
I'm kind of curious, is that typically how that arrangement is undertaken, where a city manages a pool within a municipality?
You know, that's how it was handed to me when I took over the pool, and honestly, I never thought about that. I've been so busy just trying to figure out how to save it. I never thought about that.
To be clear, it wasn't my catch, it was somebody
No,
else.
that's completely fair. Lance can address that.
No, I can't address it, but I will say, we do not pay, the city doesn't pay for any water usage within the city. Our largest water user, I believe in the city currently, now that NORPAC is gone, is the wastewater treatment plant. They don't pay a dime for water. Neither do any of our parks during the summertime. So I think it would probably be pretty much the same as that.
Okay. Okay,
Just curious, thank you.
that's okay. That's a good question.
Councilor Quigley. Okay.
Okay, that completes the pool.
I'm sorry, I have a question, another question.
Go ahead, Councilor Ord.
Thank you. Okay, so we talked about this yesterday, and I know that you said that so we talked about the FTEs, and we went from the 8 to the 3, and I was asking if this included like pool instructors, but it looks like we're not budgeting any pool instructors, but we're anticipating having pool instructors, so shouldn't they be here in the budget?
The lifeguards are the pool instructors. It's one position. They're doing both. I don't have any just instructor positions. We just hired lifeguards and trained them to do both because we have a smaller amount of staff to be able to be more
They
usable.
were doing both before.
We had separate positions before. We actually had separate people that were hired just to do instruction only, and we had lifeguards. and some lifeguards did instruction and training classes, and some were just instructors. So we still have that in our structure, but at this point, with the small amount of staff, we're just doing the combined.
So do we plan to, when we bring back swimming lessons, are we planning to have the full schedule that we had previously?
No, I don't think it'll be that full. It's just going to be based on what staffing we have and what availability we can do, and it'll just have to slowly grow in increments as we go. So I don't have, Emily's working on that schedule, and we've got the people picked that's going to be doing the classes, and we'll be getting that information out in the first part, at the end of May, because we're hoping to start that in the first part of June. And we're just going to go with how many people come, what we can do, and can hopefully grow it with time. Because we didn't get the membership we expected, so I'm not sure how to anticipate the swimming lessons. So it will really all depend on who comes, and then we'll just be navigating and changing as it comes. The one thing I do have locked in is that Kiwanis is going to be doing the third graders. And we're hoping to be able to get the fourth graders in who missed last year's because the pool was closed for that. So we have that scheduled coming in closer to the end of their school year. But it's really going to be see what happens. I don't have a crystal ball.
Okay. I mean, is there any way that we could do like pre-signups?
So once the schedule is actually in place, and we actually have it on the website with the actual dates and times, we have already had people contact us. We'll be reaching out to them. With our new system, we can send out mass emails, and we'll be letting everyone know that the swimming lessons hours and times and what age groups we'll be doing. And then we'll see as they come in, and we'll go from there. And really will depend on how many actually respond to us that want to be in there, and we'll adjust it depending on how many contact us.
Okay. I would love to see like an email go out or something that would anticipate like how many people are interested in it, because when we had swimming lessons, you couldn't, whenever they opened, the day that they opened, if you didn't sign up, like right at 8 o'clock, if you didn't get in there before noon, they were almost all full.
I hope that happens. Well, I hope that happens.
I just anticipate, and I have people who are like chomping at the bit, like where do I find swimming lessons? Where are swimming lessons? People are looking for them, and so
So I did say we will be sending out an email to everyone. It will be announcing on the website. We'll pull it out on Facebook. So it will get out there, and depending on how they respond to us, we'll adjust as we need to try to accommodate as many people as possible. And also, once we bring the rates, because at this point, we don't have any private swimming lesson rates, and that's going to be a game changer for how many more people we'll be able to serve. And we can't even do that until after July 1st when council approves new rates.
But are we going to can we do it beforehand?
Private lessons, no.
No, I'm not.
But group lessons, yes.
Okay, so maybe this is getting to the minutia, but I'm just.
You're asking if we can send out notice prior to the date that swim lessons open? Is that?
Like how many people are interested to get in? You say that you don't know, and I totally understand that. I would just hate to, to miss an opportunity to accommodate, the people that want to do it, and then we're behind. I mean, we're already behind in hiring because it's hard to get people, and I understand that. But if we know that there's a big, if there's a big demand for it, then we can, stave that off, hopefully.
Yeah, I would anticipate that I know swim lessons have been popular. I had my kids in them, and it was a fight to get them in, right? Every time. And so I do anticipate it's probably going to be full, and we probably will have some growing pains as we navigate trying to get as many people in, as many kids into lessons. And we have to work within the constraints of how many employees we have and the requirements for how many guards have to be on the deck and how many, there's so many moving parts. And we are onboarding employees currently. I think this month we're up to three or four.
Two new apps we have.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
But that's where my concern is with how many people we have budgeted for staffing of it.
and I think
Am I
if
the only one that feels this way?
if that's something that, if that's where the budget changes, revisions can come down the road. If it doesn't tie us to that for the whole year. If we're seeing like this huge, like, oh my gosh, we need to hire more, offer more hours or whatever it is, that the budget will come back to the council and for a revision to be able to accommodate that.
The budget can always be changed, and this is an estimate like I've showed you in before. We're planning a budget in April that we're not even going to start till July. And if you look at the budget, I mean, I even anticipated that we were going to do $190,000. We only did 60. To over budget again just makes it more difficult. So I ratcheted everything down with a smaller step, and we just go as we're going. We will notify everyone as soon as those hours are locked and find out who's interested, once I'm closer to ready to go and how many we can accommodate. And this budget is just going to be alive, and if we have to come back and change it, we'll come back to council and budget committee and change as we need. Okay, that completes the pool.
Lance.
All right. Good evening. I'm Lance. I am the Public Works Director, and for the next little bit, I'll be speaking to you regarding the funds that I manage. And we're going to start off with the Parks Fund this evening. The staffing hasn't really changed much. This is basically creative financing. We're actually going to be adding, in Public Works, I've got 5 positions. We're going to be adding one position and 30% or 30% of that position will be paid for from the Parks Department. And that operator will spend probably 3 months in the summer helping Bob Parsons out. Instead of hiring a seasonal worker, we're just going to hire one full-time worker, a person that this person will actually be replacing a person that we had 2 years ago when NORPAC shut down. We let him go. We never rehired. We're just rehiring that position, and a third of that position will actually be helping in the parks. So we actually reduced 30% there, 20% of employees in the Parks Department. Accomplishments this last year, this includes between our Parks Department, it includes folks from our Parks and Recreational Board. We built a half-mile path around Mill Creek Park using the chips we created from the ice storm debris. We're presently, we put a culvert in and we put the path in. We replaced the community center lights with LED lights to save the city money. I don't know if any of you get down to the Sandy Am Park, but the gazebo is in mass need of repairs. And last year we replaced 2 columns. We'll be replacing another 2 columns this year, this summer. And that's about it. The community garden's been successful through the pandemic. We rented 13 of the 16 plots last year. And that 10 of 16, I think we're right up at 15 right now for this year. And I don't know how many of you know it, but the Parks and Recreational Board, they created a parks video contest for our community, and that is to promote our parks. We have several people, well, there's quite a few people actually that have entered it, but they're going to be looking at Pioneer Park and they're going to be looking at Riverfront Park. And they're going to create videos. The Parks and Recreational Board will be reviewing them, and we'll have a winner. And those videos will actually go on our website to try to help promote Stayton Parks. And that's really a Parks and Recreational Board project. Short-term maintenance for our parks, that's always a big thing. The parks is funded via the levy and the general fund. So parks are always in need of fund. So maintenance services for our parks. We have a lot of acreage in our parks, and we have one guy, and that's him right there. That's Bob Parsons. He takes care of all our parks for us. And so that is always a huge need for us. Some of the other short-term things that we'll be looking at is building the Mill Creek Park out. We applied for an OPRD grant, a large grant last year. We weren't successful. We were a finalist for it. It was a $750,000 grant. We did not apply for one this year. We probably be looking at it next year. But we're also going to start looking at building the master plan out without grant funds. Slowly but surely start building that park out. The Parks and Recreational Board are looking at maybe putting in building the sand volleyball court out there on their own. That's something that we can do at a reasonable cost. That looks like it might be a project going forward with the Parks and Recreational Board and some volunteers that we use. Long-term, continue to meet Riverfront Park requirements with the conservation plan, expand our trail system, and look for funding opportunities for the Mill Creek Park Master Plan. Challenges and opportunities. Again, labor is huge for us. We have one man, he's probably going to retire in the next few years. And that's it. That's who takes care of our parks. And if you guys go out to our parks, we have a lot of parks. He does quite a great job for us. But that's finding the labor to help him out is huge. And we'll be able to help him this year by filling that one utility position. Sustainable funding for the desired parks. The levy was huge this year, but it took 3 times to pass it. It is what it is. But that really funds 50% or more of our parks, that levy. So if we lose that, the parks don't close, but the maintenance is not as good. I'll just put it that way. Lawn might get a little longer. Some of the infrastructure, the play equipment may not get replaced. It may just get taken down, that kind of thing. So that's a huge thing for us in the long term, finding that sustainable funding. I know other cities have parks and recreational fees that they charge their taxpayers in the utility bill. That's nothing we've talked about, but perhaps that's something that we entertain in the future. That's something to think about. You can see the activity measures that have taken place over the last year. They're very in line with what we have been doing. Parks and maintenance trail hours. I'm really surprised to see that so high, considering we don't really maintain Wilderness Park anymore. So he's just out doing stuff in Riverfront and other places. The capital outlay for this next year, gazebo repairs, like I talked about. The community center pathway out here behind us is in need of repair. It doesn't meet ADA right now, so we're going to be cutting out a lot of asphalt and putting new asphalt down so people with handicaps can go around our park and use our parks. Jordan Bridge maintenance, we're going to have some fumigation out there done into the wood structures. And then the Mill Creek Park Barn and the Teen Center, they have leaks in them, and they have some issues with the siding, dry rot and so forth, so we're going to put some money into those since they're city structures, city infrastructure. Any questions on parks?
Sure, that's.
Mr. Quigley.
Lance, I don't have a question per se, maybe just a suggestion. Seeing how we have a need for some volunteer work, maybe the Parks and Rec Board could send a note out or blow the horn, whatever you want to call it, for some kind of work parties, because I guarantee you that the community would turn out to support it. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, we did that last year for the Mill Creek Pathway. We ended up having to go and get high school students from Regis to help us out. It worked out good. We put the word out. Fortunately, the Parks Board, we have a nice mix of folks on it. We have some younger folks who are very active in the community. went to Regis High School, and they're very well connected with the running clubs and so forth. So we've been fortunate that way. That's why we've been getting quite a few projects done with them. And I'll look forward to doing that as well, Brian. Are there any other questions?
I got a question. Cranston. The concession stand at Pioneer Park,
Yes, sir.
how often does that get used?
It gets rented. We rent it just like we do the Jordan Bridge. And in the summertime, it gets rented, well, prior to COVID, it was rented several times in the summer for large weddings, beautiful weddings. I've got some outstanding pictures of huge weddings out there where they put stages out under the trees. But obviously during COVID, we didn't rent it. We just opened it up last spring. I think we had two or three weddings out there also. So in the summertime, it does get rented. The car show used to rent it. They rented it a couple of years, but he's since moved on. We have bike, as some of you know, we have a lot of bike clubs in the area. They tour Stayton. They stop at Pioneer Park, and sometimes they run it as well. But yeah, it's rented just like anything else. And if you go to our rental webpage on Public Works, it's right there. It tells you how much it costs and what it entails. We have a barbecue in it, refrigerators, stainless steel sinks. It's a real nice area, actually.
All right, thank you.
Chair Lewis.
Counselor Ort.
Lance, thank you. I know that we were going out for that grant for Mill Creek Park, but are there any smaller grants that we could look for like play equipment or, like I know before we've done like bark dust or things like that. Are there any smaller grants? That
There are many
Do.
smaller grants out there, and what it boils down to is man hours to put those grant applications out.
Gotcha.
They're not small. They
Sure.
take some man hours to do these. And so, yeah, there are many, and we'll be looking at those to do that. Again, we want to start looking at the master plan, as you're aware. You've seen it. I think you took part in some of the community meetings we had.
Yeah.
It's about a $5 million park when we get it all built. So we're going to have to start looking at perhaps doing it in smaller phases. And the Parks and Recreational Board, they really want to build the sand volleyball court. I think that's awesome. Great opportunity for us to do something with limited funds. And we have people reach out all the time for helping us do other types of equipment, ADA type equipment, playground equipment, which I think would be awesome. But yeah, there are. Long story short, long answer, yeah, there are, and we'll be looking at those.
Is that something that the Parks Board could take part in to, I don't know how it works, but could they look for those grants? Can they help with them? Can they look for partners out in the community that are looking to donate money? I mean, for instance, who was it? I think it was Public Services that when we were asking, how much money do they give to the community or in terms of, fundraising dollars and whatnot, and they said, well, if people don't ask, we're not just going to hand out money. So I don't know if
Yeah.
it's something that the Parks Board could brainstorm and think about.
Yeah, we've had active participation. This is the first year in a long time where we've had a lot of active participation in the Parks Board. And that's something I can bring up to them. But you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, I can bring it up. I need volunteers to do it, and we'll see. I think for this video contest we did, it was all Parks Board.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I saw
they did.
that.
They have done everything. They've made the write-up, they put it out. It's been wonderful. It's been a good experience for me because it's one of the first times since I've been here that the Parks Board actually did 100% of a project. And that's awesome, and I hope it works out that way from now on. But yeah, I can ask them and I'm sure they'll be willing to look at it.
Well, thank you. If you can't tell by now, I have kids. And so we like the park along with the library and the pool. And what's that park? That little hidden one?
North Slope.
North
North Slope Park,
Slope.
yeah.
We just moved and I found this new North Slope Park.
That's a hidden gem of our community, as far as I'm concerned. You
Did you
can
even
walk
know
to
that
it, and
existed?
people don't see it.
North Slope.
North Slope. It's behind the
Oh,
Methodist
it's-
Church.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know that name.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
I
little
know how to
park.
name. Yeah, I didn't know either. I asked Alyssa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Chair Lewis, real quick.
Councilor Patty.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Hey, Lance, thank you for providing some of this detail about the last time we went out for the grant. I did have another question past that, just so I understand the viability of obtaining that grant if we were to go out for it another time. Do you know how many applicants were included on the last go-round, offhand?
Oh, I think, just off the start, I think there was 18 of us finalists. And then I think there must have been 40 or so at least that applied for it. I went into the process is you turn in your application, they review the application, they score it, and then they invite you to the finals. And in the finals, it's an interview panel of probably 15 to 20 people. And this went via Zoom. Usually they're in person. So that in itself was somewhat interesting. But then there's 15 to 18 different cities and agencies applying for the same money. And the communities that I saw, when I went back and looked, that I saw that got money from them were communities that had already been working on their parks. They've already built a mile of pathway and things like that. And we had the property, that was it, really, and we got the property, we've got, $4 million worth of work to do. We're asking for $750,000. So that's one of the reasons I really want to start looking at that Mill Creek property in phases. Start going out and putting small portions together of the master plan, and that way when we go forward to the OPRD next time, we can show that we've got citizen involvement. We're putting things together without you, but it'd be a big help if you could give us some money. And I think they look favorably on that.
Gotcha. And then with that, would it be more favorable looking for us to submit that application if we were to obtain some of these smaller grants that you kind of referenced earlier that Councilor Orr was asking about?
I couldn't answer that. I would think, yeah. I mean, when we did the Pioneer Park rehabilitation program, we tied it to the Ford Family Foundation grant. We had $100,000 there. We had another grant. It was for the natural plague equipment that's out there. So we had 3 different grants tied into that. And the total came up to be like $600,000 or something like that. So yeah, that's what you want to do, is you want to try to pair them together with others. And I can't say, because I've never sit on one of the boards, the review boards, but it can only help to show that we've got other participation from groups giving us money or wanting to help us meet our goal.
Thank you.
Anything else on parks, folks? All right, let's move on to streets. Street Department, we have 1.5 folks under being paid for out of the street fund. We've got the Public Works Supervisor and 1 utility operator. Accomplishments, we continue to design the roundabout on Shaft Club Road. We're going to be paving Jefferson Street. I put this in here because it really is this fiscal year. We just got the bid back. We had open bids today for that project, and so that should be done by the middle of June. We had 5 contractors bid on it, and all of them were right around our engineer's estimate, so that was, I felt pretty good about that. This last year, we went to a new street rating system. It's PCI. We hired a engineering consultant, GRI, to go out and rate all our streets and then build a database with Street Saver software. As you can see there on the left, that's the roundabout. That's the conceptual design of that. We'll be doing a truck rodeo. We call it a truck rodeo for the roundabout, going back to it in June, which is, we're going to go out to the bus barn. I reached out to Blazer Industries today, and I think they're favorable for us to do that. We'll go out and we'll paint up and cone up what the roundabout looks like. And then we'll invite all our partners here and shareholders here in the city that have trucks, buses, to invite them out to drive around the bus barn. We'll have a drone out there to show them what it looks like, and so we can adjust the design, and they'll get a feel for what it's going to be like when we build it. So we don't build it and then they come out. We're going to give them an opportunity to go out and try that out, and that should be sometime in June, middle of June. On the right side, you'll see the 5-year capital improvement project, which was developed using Street Saver with our new street rating system. I know you probably can't read it all, but we've got slurry seals and we've got overlays in there, and they're all spread out, and it's based on street ratings and the conditions of those streets. I'll be bringing a report to the city council probably within a month, the final report from that project. And you'll gain a lot of insight to what we're looking at as engineers when we do this, when you should be paving and when you should just let it go because it's beyond paving. And it really applies to the different type of pavement treatments that we can offer to maintain our streets at a very good level. And I'll be bringing that forward to you guys within a month, but it should be really enlightening for you. And it's not me telling you, it's another consultant that specializes in streets that will tell you exactly what I've been telling you, or we're trying to let you know. But it'll be an independent party, so I think that's very important that you hear it from somebody else telling you things that we've been trying to relay to you. Anyway, sorry, Alyssa, go ahead. Those are our activity measures for the year. They look pretty much in line with everything, except we put down a lot of cold mix this year, which tells us we have a lot of potholes in the city, but that's not something that I need to tell you all. The cold mix goes into the potholes, and hopefully it lasts for a while. Short term.
Mr. Lewis, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can we go back to the last slide? So you have street sweepings up there for, where is it? 440 cubic yards being hauled to Coffin Butte.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why it's being hauled to Coffin Butte and not Salem?
It's where we've always done it, plus it's got particulates in it, mercury and things like that, sediment that I'm not sure if Salem will take it or not. I can't answer that. Coffin Butte's where we've always taken it.
Okay, thank you.
Where was I? Short term, we want to finish the roundabout design this year. Once the truck rodeo is done, it's full steam ahead, and we should have that done by November, I think is what our new current calendar says. We're implementing the 5-year capital improvement plan. You guys will be able to see that. We're going to be forecasting street maintenance every year, slurry seals and overlays, and every 5th or 6th year we'll be doing a street reconstruction, which is from the subgrade up. Construct sidewalks, ADA ramps annually. That is not part of the 5-year plan as far as the street ratings, but it's something that we have in our budget. Long-term is to keep going with that street maintenance. People are paying their 3% gas tax here, their local gas tax. They deserve it, and we need to be fulfilling our requirements there. And replace sidewalks and install ADA approaches per ProWag, meaning that we're designing not just ADA approaches for what we think works, but there are design standards out there that we need to be meeting, so we assist all our disabled folks that come to our community. And so that's something we'll be doing also. Continue working with code enforcement to make sure property owners replace their sidewalks. I know when we started COVID, I came into the city council and asked if we should put a hold on our sidewalk rehabilitation program. meaning we were going to we quadranted off the city, and we were sending letters to homeowners if their sidewalks didn't meet code. We put that on hold. It's been a couple of years. I think I'll be coming to council here in the next month or two to see if we want to start that back up. And we'll go from there. As usual, matching up street projects with other utility improvements, that's just going to be an ongoing necessity. We have so much infrastructure in our streets that are not up to par, that you really can't go and do an overlay over a 2-inch or a 4-inch storm pipe. It just doesn't make any sense unless you don't have the funds to replace that 4-inch storm pipe. And those are things that we have to look at as Public Works Department employees. Look for partnerships with other agencies to replace streets, sidewalks, and bike travel ways.
Chair Lewis?
Go ahead.
Lance, can I I was thinking about the sidewalks.
Yeah.
And even before we talk about starting up that program again, could we maybe put in the newsletter or some sort of education piece about, I just know a lot of homeowners don't know that sidewalks are their responsibility. And so just trying to educate them about this is your responsibility, and if someone gets hurt on them, just try to maybe be proactive about it.
That
and
is
have
a
them
great
think about
idea.
it.
That is a great idea. We used to do it. We haven't done it for probably 2 years now. But we used to do it every spring because great time to get it done, spring. And so that's a great idea. We'll put it back out there. We're always looking for things to put in the newsletter. And on Facebook, that's a great opportunity for us. So
Awesome.
I'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
Changes, we're just gonna, the changes, it's really not a change. We've got to complete the roundabout design to see where we stand. We can't go out for federal dollars or grants or anything until that is done. We're designing it for federal dollars, meaning we're jumping through every hoop possible. So when we are complete, that we are able to use federal dollars. We've checked and gone through all the processes that the feds are going to want to see, wetlands and so forth. There's a big list. Mill and overlay Wyatt Street, Wyatt Avenue, that's going to be done next spring, 23, but it's this fiscal year that we're talking about. And slurry seal numerous streets in Westtown. On the map that I showed you earlier, the 5-year plan, that's on there. You can see what we're going to be doing. And I plan to have that on the website from here on out, now that it's done, once I take it to the city council and you guys see it. Once you guys look at it and give me the go-ahead, that's going on there, and that'll be a 5-year plan that we'll be updating annually based on dollars and based on ratings. Next. Street overlay, it'd be $300,000 for Wyatt Street. Slurry seals, we're looking about 120 grand, and the roundabout design, about 230,000. Any questions for streets? All right, moving on. Water fund. All right, staffing, 3.37. Again, this is an accounting thing, what fund pays for whom. We have 5 employees in the Public Works operations. 3.37 of them are being paid from the water fund. Accomplishments, again, we were, you know that we were voted best tasting surface water. It's a testament to our water employees. They take that very seriously, and they're very proud of that work. We completed the aquifer storage and recovery feasibility study in March. I brought that to you guys' attention. I brought the consultant to your attention. We've since applied for a OWRD grant, 75%, 25% funded grant to get that built. We should know sometime in the fall, I believe. That'd be a good thing for us, so we could have a secondary water source in this community. And then ARPA, we'll be using the ARPA funds, that's slow sand filter. It is being done, it was started Monday. They should be done in probably 2.5 weeks. We'll have that thing back online in probably 3 months. But that project has gone forward, and the contractor's out working it now. And this next
Chair
fiscal
Lewis.
year, we're going to be moving towards the Water Master Plan update. We've
Chair
done the.
Lewis, real quick, Lance, I was just curious, before you get off of the point, when is the next sand filter bed due to have more sand added to it, as we've done previously?
Yeah, I would say I'd have to go back and look. I have it on the five-year plan. I think it's 5 to 6 years. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to see how close that was to now.
In the Water Master Plan, we've done the Transportation Plan, we've done the Wastewater Master Plan. We're going to do the Water Master Plan this year, and then move on to the Stormwater Master Plan, and then we'll be complete for our Master Plan updates. Activity measures, you can see how much potable water we produced and how much we billed. The water meters, I mean, the guys are busy. A town of this size, and there's 3 guys working all the water issues that we have. Anyway, I'm proud of them. Strategic plan, perform water system master plan update. We're going to be performing a utility rate study. I've got the final for the RFP sitting on my desk. It'll be going to the Daily Journal of Commerce tomorrow or Friday or Thursday. And then we'll be opening that up for consultants starting next Monday. We're hoping to have that done in 6 to 8 months. This next year, we're going to construct a new water on Douglas Street. This is primarily due to fire flows, and replace all the water meter service lines on Wyatt Street before we pave next year. So we'll be doing that probably over the winter time, since we can do it in the winter time. And then once we're done, we'll put the job out to bid for the paving project, so we don't have to dig it up if there's a leak. Long-term, design and construct alternate water source, that's the ASR system. We're hoping to get that grant from the OWRD. And design and construct a contact water time for the water treatment plant. That's a project that we've been talking about for 7 or 8 years. And we'll probably talk about it for a few more years until the water master plan's done. And hopefully they confirm that it still needs to be done. Challenges, finding funding to meet our 5-year capital project goals, to keep our water system working. You guys know it's in, our water fund is in disarray. We need to figure out how we're going to continue on providing water to our community. You know, the long term, we always want to look at how we can save water. And I think one of the issues that came up earlier, that about none of the city shops pay for water usage. I'm kind of surprised at that, when the largest water user in our city is the wastewater treatment plant. I know our water treatment plant manager, he reminds me of that every month at our monthly meetings, so we need to get those guys paying for water. But you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So that's something that we need to look at, how we can build redundancies into our systems so we're reusing water. It may cost a little bit of money to build that redundancy down at the water treatment or wastewater treatment plant, but in the long haul, it somewhat saves it, because we can go sell that other water and make some money on it. So those are things we need to look at during the water master plan update.
Chair Lewis?
Yes.
Lance, we had talked about you were going to like camera the sewer lines, or was it the sewer lines or not the water lines, right?
Yeah, you camera the sewer lines.
Okay, never mind. Carry on.
That's coming up. Allocations for line upsizing in Douglas Street, and $225,000 for the water master plan. And that's the next capital outlay. You can see what we're doing. The one thing I did notice was that it says, my previous slide there, it said $225,000 for the water system master plan. That should say $250,000 for the water system master plan. So there's a typo there. The water intake emergency exit system, that is something that we need to get done. It should have been done years and years and years ago, and I just found about it. So we're going to be doing something there. Bleach tank replacements. We're going to enclose the water treatment plant, fully enclose it. Right now, you could walk into the water treatment plant, and I don't think our water supply is something that we should leave open for people just to walk into on a weekend. So we're going to fully enclose that. And then the upsizing of the water lines you can see there. That concludes the water. Or do we have any questions on the water?
Go ahead.
The excess water from NORPAC, what happened to it?
There is no excess water from NORPAC.
Where, okay.
We just don't sell it to them.
I know, but where'd it go?
We don't pull it out of the river.
Okay.
I mean, we only draw what we need, and so if we don't need it, we don't draw it. That's it. That's why we're looking for other businesses down there. Any other questions? All right, let's move on to sewer fund. We have 6.84 folks down there. We actually only have 5.84. We have, in the budget, there is 6.84. We never replaced a person that left, and so that's why that is there. Accomplishments, we replaced the influent pump control and SCADA system at the wastewater treatment plant. We received our NPDES permit last year. It took us 6 months, and the previous one took 8.5 years. So we feel pretty good about that. We started the design for the Ida Street sanitary sewer 30-inch project. That project is a master plan priority 1.1 because it's preventing us from doing any kind of development in that basin. We couldn't build a house, we couldn't build any kind of business at all until that line is constructed because it has overflows up in the upstream, up basin of that. So that is being designed now. I just had a meeting of the 90% plans are very close to being done, and we're looking at probably putting that out to bid the 1st of July for August and September build-out. We'll be installing a new turbo blower at the wastewater treatment plant this next year. That is also a 1.7, a priority 1.7 project from our wastewater master plan. And it looks like started design and we're going to construct it. I've got that on there twice. I guess we're doing both. One was last year and one's this year. Okay, moving on.
Chair Lewis,
Go
can I
ahead.
go back? Lance, you're talking about the project on Ida Street. Can you just talk about that a little bit more in terms of, so once we do this, then what you're saying, we can't have any more building or anything out there?
Right now, the wastewater master plan says if we add any more sewer to our line, it'll surcharge up basin like here on First Avenue. There's 3 manholes on First Avenue. Sewer could possibly come right out of the manholes into the streets.
Okay.
And so we've somewhat put a informal moratorium on development, and we tell developers why when they come in and talk to us. We haven't brought the resolution or a resolution to council so they know it. But we just learned of this not even like 9 months ago, actually. Since then, we've been trying. When I found that out, we decided we wanted to go and get that designed, so we at least know what it's going to cost, and we can get it constructed. It's a 30-inch sewer line. It'll be starting down at the vault. There's a vault right next to the fire department in Jetter's Way. It'll go 30-inch up to Ida Street, and then from Ida, it'll go up. It's supposed to go all the way to Evergreen Avenue and then hang a left and go up to the bridge. We don't have the money for all that. What we're going to be doing is building about 2,000 feet of it this year. And then we're going to have to come back and finish it in the next couple of years. But what this will allow us to do is there's a 13-acre site south of NORPAC that is just sitting there, and we've got developers wanting to build homes and whatever else there. We got to tell them no. So what we're going to do with this line is it'll be built far enough where we can actually, that can be developed. People can go develop the land, we'll have enough capacity in the line, and we can move forward. And we'll just start moving our way east with the line improvement. And hopefully, I think in there I had a drawing that's I put out it was a 5-phase plan to get it completed. We're going to be building phases 1 and 2 this summer. So that kind of gives you an idea where we're at. We did receive a $500,000 ARPA grant from Marion County to help us with this. It's a $1.5 million project. 500,000 of it's going to be coming from Marion County.
So, okay, 2 questions. So for that grant, you can't use that for existing, does it have to be used for new growth, or can you not use it for existing?
This wasn't like a general grant. I applied for a grant through Marion County for this specific project.
Okay.
So I have to use it for that. We have to, not I, we have to use it for that specific project.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll wait for my next question.
Activity measures, you can see what we do there. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Pipe repairs, we didn't have any, but that's because we're early. The guys are out there doing them now, and I don't have a good number for it. Our short term, we want to get the 30-inch line built so we can open up development to our community, and yeah, I think it just helps for everybody. We perform annual inspections, what Councilor Ort was talking about. We do up to 5 miles of line annually of TV inspections, and we're looking for I&I problems, and we're repairing the I&I problems as we find them. Long-term, continue to fund our maintenance and capital outlay program. Reduce I&I, which reduces the amount of inflow at our wastewater treatment plant, which reduces cost. Challenges, again, I&I reduction, that's huge. We have a large I&I reduction problem here. Most of it, though, is through service laterals to private property owners. It's not our main lines. I'm sure within the next year or so, we'll be coming forward to the city council with the program for that we'll be working with DEQ on to help fund or help finance individual property owners to have their laterals replaced. The burden will be on the property owner, but I think they can get low interest rates, and that's something we can talk at another time. Long-term, I'd like to purchase a TV truck so we don't have to pay, $200,000 a year for some other business to do the work that we could do ourselves. We could get a TV truck for like $350,000, and we could be doing this work ourselves, and we could be renting it out to our surrounding neighbors that have already somewhat committed to that. So that's something that I would like to be looking at long-term. And replace the sludge dryer, which is, if you've been on here to these meetings very much, you know that's been a boat anchor for 7 years anyway. It needs a lot of repairs. They're spending a lot of time fixing that. In fact, it's down this whole week because of repairs. Changes, capital improvement projects. There's the map that I was actually referring to. You can see the first 2 phases will be done this summer. And then we've got the turbo blower at the wastewater treatment plant, which is also a wastewater master plan project. You can see the capital improvements there and what the costs are, and that concludes sanitary sewer. Are there any further questions on the sanitary sewer budget? Hearing none.
I got
yes,
a
sir.
2-part. The replacement or for the increase of the 30-inch line.
Yeah.
What is the line currently sized at?
21.
21.
Well, 21, then it goes to an 18, and then it goes to a 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we got problems.
That's a lot of backup.
There's a lot of backup.
What is the increased capacity?
We
Of a
can,
30-inch.
I had a consultant looking at that, and so the wastewater master plan is a 20-year planning tool, okay? They look at the growth that we're going to possibly have in 20 years. And we use the Portland State University's calculations for that, which says we're going to grow about 1% a year for 20 years. We generate how many homes that includes and how many EDUs, equivalent units, that's going to provide our line. And then we place them where we think the development's going to occur, that much development. And then we design, we do our model. Before we started this project, Dan and I sat down and we said, look, this is not a 20-year sewer line. I don't want to be, in my retirement, looking and seeing that Stayton has to build another line because we only look 20 years. So I went back to the consultant and I asked him to do a 50-year. So they added 800 more units, everything east of us, to make sure this line will have the capacity, and it does. So I feel pretty confident that this thing will last a long time once it's built.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, stormwater. This is one of those funds, much like the water fund. It doesn't have a whole lot of money in it, and there's a lot of improvements that need to be done. We have a half a person working in the water, in the stormwater fund. She does an outstanding job. Danielle, if you see her out there, give her a shout out because she is a rock star in our eyes. Accomplishments. Well, and I'm not sure it's an accomplishment, but we paid the Water Control District $29,000 to use their ditches for our stormwater, and that'll continue to go up at the CPI rate annually. Storm cistern catch basin upgrades on the Jefferson Street overlay that we're going to be doing here in the next month. We've got some improvements there. Strategic plan. Basically, I'm going to tell you, the storm system, it's not funded very well, so what we do is we do what we can with what we have to make sure no one gets flooded in this community, and that's all we do. We have a stormwater master plan that was done back in '04 or '05 that shows that we need to have 42-inch pipe in Regis Street. Well, we don't have any money to put that in the ground, so that's just going to be sitting there until we figure out a way to pay for that. And that might be through grants, that might be us figuring out how to generate more revenue in the storm fund, that might be combining street and storm fund. These are issues that the city council and staff are going to have to sit down and discuss it one day and try to figure that out, because there's a lot of need in the storm system and there's not a lot of dollars. So again, that's what we do. Most of our time is trying to fix flooding issues. Meet TMDL benchmarks, that is a DEQ thing I've talked about before. DEQ has certain benchmarks that we need to meet, and in order to do that, we have to spend resources to meet those benchmarks for sediment and mercury and bacteria, things like that. Yeah, long-term, short-term and long-term. Try to ensure funding for our annual maintenance and try to rid our backlog of storm problems. And then in 23 through 25, we're looking at doing this stormwater master plan. I think I just talked about it, maintain existing storm system, very limited resources. We've got a utility rate study. I put it here as well because we'll be looking at our storm rates as well, besides our sanitary sewer and our streets. And do what we can to build storm drain improvements during street projects. For long-term, I think I've covered most of that. We have high groundwater here. I'm well aware that, I'm sure most of you know that. That poses a significant issue to anything we do regarding stormwater in this community, actually regarding sanitary or stormwater. high groundwater is a nemesis. And it seems like every time we start to do something, it rears its ugly head, and we've got to deal with it. Capital outlay, water quality manholes, storm system improvements, $65,000. That's our capital work for a storm system this year. That is it for the stormwater. Is there any questions?
Chair, this is Councilor Hook.
Oh, go ahead, Councilor.
Thanks. Lance, I'm curious if we have any type of volunteer system at like volunteer organization or group. What am I thinking of? I can't think of the right words. Anyway, do we have volunteers, like a team of volunteers or any type of work that we're doing at the city to bring in volunteers to help write some grants? Because I'm hearing a lot about how we don't have money. We're gonna have to do rates. And I'm sorry, I just don't think that's the answer. And I'm really hoping that with the new city manager that we have coming on, that maybe some of those skills will come with that, where we can figure out how we can get grants in. But I know that there's money out there, and rates increases are not the answer. We have a lot of streets that need to be fixed that I know 4 years ago, I wanted to see some of these streets fixed, and I know that it's a lack of money, and I don't understand why we don't have like more of a push for volunteers, more of a push for like just even the idea of us marketing things. It feels like that was just shut down. This isn't the first time that I brought up volunteers before. I want to know what else we can do to be more resourceful besides trying to keep charging our community more all the time. There's got to be other things that we can do. So can someone tell me if we have a volunteer system, if that just went dead, if we can revive it? Something, because I know we've got a lot of community members that know how to write grants. I've helped write grants before. I'd be willing to come and help write some grants if that's allowed for me to do that. I think that we just need more of the community involved. Can someone answer that about the volunteers though? Because there's people out there that know how to write grants.
I think you have some great ideas. I'm not sure I will be able to answer them tonight. I do look forward to the new city manager because she's coming from a place and a background that has been doing this for a long time. A new set of eyes, fresh eyes, some experience, different experiences than myself and probably others here on this in our staff. I'm looking forward to that, and maybe she has some suggestions that we can work on. As far as the volunteers, the only volunteers that I know about are the ones I work with on the Parks Board. Other than that, I don't get a whole lot of people volunteering to do much of anything here for Public Works. And I haven't reached out, though, to be quite honest. Anybody else want to answer?
Chairman Lewis.
Go ahead, Councilor Quigley.
The Councilor Hook's point, I just showed Councilor Patty a note that I had wrote, and I think we can probably address it in council, hopefully. To your point, Councilor Hook, maybe we try to come up with some kind of grant funding, grant writing committee for all the issues we have in the city.
That's an excellent idea.
Hopefully we can get that off the ground. So I think that's probably a discussion for us in another council meeting, but I think you're on the right track. I think we pool our resources, get everybody that has experience, and try to tackle it.
Chair Lewis.
Go ahead.
This is Councilor Patty, Councilor Hook. I also agree with that idea. The other alternative that it's probably not feasible at this point due to funding shortages, obviously, but an FTE for a grant writer. I know we've talked about that in the past. That's probably something that we probably have to come back to the committee with, but maybe is that something we could discuss with our new city manager, when she's appointed, and that could be a conversation we'd have too, if the grant committee isn't an idea that we all like. I just wanted to put that alternative there too.
I will say that I know other cities, they will, I saw it yesterday or the day before, there are other cities that are our size that are looking for half-time grant writers, and they're paying them for it. That's the reality. So that's, something that we can talk about also during another session or a council meeting or during our council goal sessions. Those, that's the things that we should be really attacking at that point. But I'm open to anything, really, Counselor. If you have any great suggestions, I'm open to it. We're talking about the storm fund, and it is, we keep talking about the water fund because everybody needs water to drink. Everybody needs water to survive. But I'm telling you, if I was to look at one infrastructure in this community that is lacking, it's the storm fund. We have no storm system in this community, very little. And what's there is undersized. And those are the facts.
Chair Lewis.
Councilor Ort.
I just want to put it out there, Lance, that, I know that for me personally, I can't join another board, committee, group, or I'm just tapped out in that respect. And so there might be people in the community like me. However, I can and would give my time for a weekend project, or like how you're talking about how the running club got together and helped you with some projects and whatnot. So I would hope if we got that information out that we could, I didn't know about the last project that you did, but I would hope that there would be people out there that could give some of their time. So that's one point. I think this next question is for Susanna. And this never occurred to me. So is there a way that the water, stormwater, sewer, streets can all be combined into one fund? Because we always talk about, is that like a rule thing?
Nope, you can't combine those. It's for Oregon budget law and accounting purposes. Yeah, we can't. They're individual funds designed the way they're designed.
And their money can't be moved around to each other?
If they move money between, it's an interfund loan. It has to be approved by council with interest and all of those things. So that isn't budget law. We can't move.
Okay. I feel like another question, but I'll figure it out.
Unless I hear anything different, I'll move on to Public Works Administration. There is my group there. Come in and say hi sometime. We don't see many people in there other than Dan and the new code enforcement officer. Anyway, we have four folks there, very talented. We do a lot of work for four of us, and I don't want to not tooting my horn, I'm tooting my other folks, my folks are. We get a lot of things done for four people. And some of those accomplishments are in the next couple of pages, but this is some projects we've done in just this last year, during a COVID year. When a lot of people are shut down, we're working. We're out there getting things done for the city and to make our city a better place to live. So, I won't go through them all, but you can see in the next two pages in those accomplishments what four of us did with the help of, some of our other folks in the field, cross-trained together and we got things done. I'm very, very proud of that. Activity measures, you can see what we do also. It's not just putting projects together, but we do the building permits. We run those through our office. We do the right-of-way permits. Any kind of work that's done in this city, it pretty much comes through Public Works. The rental hours, we manage the rental facilities as far as scheduling them and dealing with the people and things like that. We work with the police department if there's going to be any kind of, alcohol over here or any kind of street closures or anything like that, or we work with them to get it resolved or figure out plans for it. Any kind of sidewalk, driveway inspections, we're out there doing it to make sure that we don't enter into a period that what I walked into where there was substandard infrastructure being constructed. That's not going to happen now. Strategic plans, just maximize our personnel. As again, we have four folks there. We're all cross-training. We're all doing different things to get work done. provide quality customer service to the public, combine infrastructure projects to maximize city funds. I think we try to do that the best we can, Councilor Ort. Like you were just saying, where we can, we do it. And where we can't, we got to keep it separate. Look for grants and partnerships to maximize the value of the city dollar. Again, that's going to Councilor Hook's question. I think we do that as best as we can, but again, sometimes it's staffing. We just don't have the man hours to put in to look for grants, because it can be quite time consuming. This for my staff. I like to keep my staff trained, and they're all professionals. If you're a professional, you have to go to get your professional development credits, your hours, your training. I like to do that for my staff as well, just because I think a trained staff makes our jobs more efficient, and we work better for the community, and it's it's good for the community to have trained people working for them. Long-term, work with community partners to improve the livability of Stayton. And changes, $150,000 for 2 contract services in the Public Works Administration, and that is for the utility rate study. I have no capital projects in administrative services. On the last page, Public Works Administration, these are projects that we have scheduled to finish out this fiscal year from May on. And all next year. So you can see all over the town that we've got something going on just about every quadrant in this community, only for the betterment. So with that, I'll take any questions you have with Public Works Admin. Hearing none. Oh,
Page.
sorry.
Sorry, it took me a second to get my stuff turned on.
All right.
I just wanted to throw out like another idea. We have a lot of colleges around here, and you were talking about training, and I didn't know if there was some way we could have like a public partnership or even a public-private partnership with a private college or something where we help, have a college student that's going for grant writing or something, like that's what they want to do. And we help them with one of their trainings so they can come and help write grants for us. And maybe even there are people in our own community, some type of partnership, within our community to help the young people stay here, maybe grow and want to be here more because we've invested in them. It's just an idea. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't have a lot of bones behind it, right? But
well, I know
something that we do.
I know the University of Oregon does work with Marion County for grant writing. They did so for their emergency management program here a few years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago. I worked with them a little bit. So there are programs out there, and that's something that we should take advantage of, at least look into. But I think it's more of a project specific versus getting somebody to write a bunch of grants for us. It'd be like, hey, we're looking for the sanitary sewer upsizing. We need to get a grant. Can you come in here and help us look for a grant and write that grant, or help us put together plans that we can submit with our application, that kind of thing. But yeah, there are schools out there. The actual schools that we're referring to for grant writing, I don't know what those are, but it's something we can look into.
Yeah, so because I do know that there's a lot of students out there that want to do this, and there's so many grants that we could be going after. I personally, as just one counselor, would totally be behind doing a city agency-wide grant writer position. I would be okay with thinking about something like that, trying to find funds for that, if they were also in charge of the grant writing internship program with colleges, because that takes a lot of time for someone to have to manage each of those interns on top of it. I wouldn't want to put that on staff that was already maxed out, but it's a very inexpensive way, or a way or even a free way sometimes, because sometimes you don't even have to, sometimes they just want the volunteer experience, period, and they don't even need pay or anything like that. Sometimes they just really want the experience with the internship. And so I just think it would be good for us to look at that. And personally, I, as one counselor, would be interested in having that discussion about getting a grant writer then at that point. But if it was just going to be for one grant writer and they didn't really maximize their power by trying to get volunteers or interns involved, then I don't know that I would be comfortable spending that much money because I don't know if the return would be worth it.
And I'd be remiss to say that I'm before you right now, Public Works, and we're talking about a lot of Public Works needs. I will say I know the rest of our staff, the library, Dan in Planning and Development, Susanna in Finance, they're always looking for grant opportunities. Public Works, we just have so much need. I just haven't had the time. I have, where I've seen a specific project, a specific need, we look for it. But the overall arching infrastructure improvements that we need in this community, I just have not had the time. So what you bring before us, those are some things that I'll consider and move forward on.
Thank you, Lance. And you guys all do a great job. So I'm just throwing out ideas, and it's nothing against your guys' work or anything like that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Moving on to SDCs then. There's not really a whole lot to report on the SDC front. We have a transfer of $250,000 this year, perhaps for the water system master plan. And then these are just for what we've brought in from development in our community in each one of the funds. We've got as of May, or the end of April, I think it was the end of April that I went to the construction cost index in the ENR, and it was 8.9%. I think our SDC resolution says we need to do it in June, so I'll be doing it here in a couple of weeks, and we'll be updating our SDCs, and you'll see those on our fee structures when they come in June. But it was 8.9%, and so we'll be raising, if that was to stay, we'll be raising our SDCs accordingly, 8.9%. And the forecast there include that 8.9%, what we're forecasting for next year. And that is it. That concludes my presentation this evening. Are there any questions on any of the funds? Or anything else for me that I might be able to answer since I'm here? Thank you very much for the evening.
Thank you.
Chairman Lewis, I just wanted to entertain the notion that since we're going to come back tomorrow, we'll call it a night.
Yeah.
I agree. So we're adjourned till tomorrow.